Welcome to Seven Diamond Radio, where powerful conversations shape focus, faith, relationships, and purpose.
Welcome to Faith and Life. My name is Christian Johnson. Thank you for joining us on this wonderful episode. I'm here with a very strong, powerful personality. I love him so much, and I'm very grateful that he's part of this very first conversation. Let me go into the introduction first. His name is Mr. Louis Edindo, a software engineer, an entrepreneur, committed Christian with passion for using technology to solve real world problems. I'm still going. He's the founder of Escrow Africa, a fintech platform focused on building trust and security in online transactions across Africa while creating meaningful social and economic impact. You can see that it's a very, very great person we have here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us once again. Mr. Lewis, this is Faith and Life, and we're happy to have you here. Quickly, without wasting your time, I want you to tell us about, just short about yourself. I've read some here, but at least let's also hear from your mouth as well before we go deeper into it.
Okay, thank you once again for having me. I'm really excited to be here in the very first episode of Faith and Life. So as you've read, right, I'm a software engineer and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm all about solving problems through technology, using the skills that I've acquired over the years to bring solutions to basic problems that hinder the everyday life of our people in Africa and also the world at large. And so I am a strong Christian, like you mentioned. I'm deep into faith and God, right? Because throughout my journey, God has been a very constant factor on how I was able to get to this point. And I know it's taking me to greater heights. So thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you, sir. Mr. Lewis, we're talking about faith and mental health.
Interesting topic.
So, in your personal experience, where does faith meet the reality of mental, emotional struggle?
Talk of faith and mental health is one that I think people should get to, churches should get to discuss more and begin to enlighten their members about mental health.
Mm.
A lot of things we leave to um, we understand professionals coming into the field, to help people in that regard. But I know that from my own personal experience, how my faith has been able to help me through this journey. I know that church getting involved, also getting professionals that are also faith based, will help a whole lot.
Mm.
I want to share my story. So at some point, I cannot say I dabbled or I had a phase, right? It was a very trying phase, and that was around 2023, between 2022 to 2023, late 2022 to 2023. So it was actually a relationship. So the relationship actually ended. Not when a relationship does not is not ending based because of what the partners, the people involved, did, right. It just happened to be that there were issues surrounding it that we had to call it quits. But it was actually very devastating because that was at the point where I saw the next step. You made all the plans and everything. You just to take it to the next step, and we came to that point, and it was actually very devastating. Um, so for me at that point, I didn't really know what to do. I didn't know how to handle it. I've not been in that kind of situation before, but I think what got me through that time, because I think that's what you say people are depressed, because I became isolated myself, wasn't really talking much, wasn't really involving myself in, because I was thinking about the whole thing. So how do I start again? All those many thoughts coming into my mind. And so, but what I did that period was I declared a fast.
Hmm.
right? I declared a 1 month fast, and at that time I didn't understand what I was doing, right? But I just declared a 1 month fast. I began. I think that was in December last year, December of 2022, and I began the first day of December, and then I began, and through the journey, God began to console me.
Hmm.
It was more of a consolation for me, and He began to show me, give me insight into the plans that He has for me. And, following in 2023, imagined I would have been able to come this far without my faith. And this is how I'll tell people that faith is very, very key. I know a lot of mental struggle, people, go through those challenges now. It's something that has come to stay. That language was alien to us some years ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, but now it has come to stay,
Yeah, definitely.
the new generation that we have. So, people being able to stand on their faith, to see God in times like that, they'll be able to pull through and then come out on the other side.
Thank you very much for that insight and eye opener. The very second one I want you to help us talk about is about every other Christians out there. So the question here says, why do you think many believers feel that admitting pressure or anxiety is a sign of spiritual failure?
I would point to religion, right? And when I would say religion, it is because of the fact that people are being, you know, when I would say religion on one side and then I'll put culture on the other side. But we can't really separate religion and culture most of the time, right? When I bring culture into the topic is to say that, people when in family settings, people are always taught that you don't can't show emotions. I remember when we were growing up then, they haven't beating you, say they tell you not to cry. Like I had it beating you and they tell you not to cry at the same time, right? So we are being you know groomed into that kind of environment where a kind of mindset where we are not allowed to show our emotions. We are not allowed to be vulnerable, especially for young men, young adults, right? When you begin to show all those, they feel like, oh, you're not a man, you're supposed to be a man, you have to bottle it up and all of that. So people are not really taught to open up. That's why you see a lot of people bottle up their issues and challenges. Church in itself, it's family, it's fellowship, right? And in a family setting, and where fellowship is the flows naturally, it's usually difficult to find people in this kind of state. Why? Because at the early stage, when these things come to be, you can share with people, and then people will pull you out of that very fast. But when the thing begins, right, people are isolated. They don't feel that they don't feel they can share with the people around their community, and then that sink them deep into that state. So I think that how we got here is just a mixture of religion and sprinkle of culture into it.
Lots from this very topic, and seriously, I am loving it. Quickly, this we're going to the next one. It says the turning point now. Now, in this very turning point, he said, was there any moment when you had to reconcile your faith with your mental health reality? Can you just walk us through it?
Thank you for that question. Right. So yes, over my journey so far in faith, yes, there have been many moments that has been challenging. I must say, right. There are times where questions, doubts, and many questions come due to challenges of life.
Yeah.
As you try to achieve greatness and great things, there are going to be stumbling blocks. There are going to be times where it feels like God is silent. There are times where you feel like, oh, like you are just alone in this journey. Right? There are many examples I would see in the Bible where people come to that point. But me personally, yes, I think what I would love to share is during my time when I got into tech. Fully, right, when I decided to get into tech, because I needed to get a skill to be able to build, these solutions. I have to have the understanding and then the hands-on experience. So, at one point, I was, job hunting, like looking for job and trying to get job. It was a very difficult time for me because I can remember then it took me like over a year to get a gig, to get a job, and it was a very trying time. At that time, I had to relocate to Lagos. I had to, get set myself up. There were so many challenges to the period because even feeding there, I could remember was actually a very big challenge. Like sometimes, when I was thinking about it, I was talking to my friends then where like I could remember now I don't really understand, like I cannot really bring myself to understand how things were then, but I still remember it. But it's just the fact that where I am now, those challenges that were challenged there is no longer challenge.
You're forgotten about those challenges.
Do you
Everything is
understand?
now balanced.
Like
Wow.
it's like, and that's where God really comes in. God has been really
That's
amazing.
reconciling the faith and the mental health.
Yes, because during this period, it was trying. I remember somebody had to advise me that guy, you need to go. Like, you are here, you have no job, nothing. What are you doing? Like, go home. And I told him, I said, I can't go home. Right, I left home. I came here because I want to, get a job and then start
over
right.
again.
And then, but it was so trying. Those times, I remember I would pray. I would, but in all of those things, right, there was this assurance I had in my heart. I think that is the difference, right? That's the difference because a lot of people, when they go through those challenges, there's nothing to hold on to.
The mental health tends to let them forget about the faith aspect.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
So when you get to that time, where those trying times, where the pressure, emotional thing is much on them, they have nothing within them to hold on to, and that is where the problem lies. Because I was able to, find that, and that was the light that was able to guide me through those times.
That's
Powerful.
That's powerful. Very, very powerful. It's how to balance the mental health and the faith. It's really very, very powerful. And I so much love that point you gave us. It's very, very nice. Not to take much of our time, we have I want to make it a bit practical now. The practical aspect, we've treated about we talked about mental health and faith. Now I want to enter into the practical aspect. Now this very point say, what does it actually look like to pray, believe, and also seek professional mental health support at the same time? What does it actually mean to pray and to also seek professional mental health support at the same time?
Yeah. So I think that one thing we forget as Christians is that the Holy Spirit is called our counselor. And when he's called our counselor, that name in itself, it's counsel in it. Right. So because even if you're going to seek professional advice, the people you are going to talk to, the professionals are going to talk
It's
to.
getting it's getting like two things now. Pray,
Yeah.
professional.
Yeah. So I'm getting to that point, like, because people often think that because it's being said right now, like seek professionals, professional help and all. Yes, there's no, like, we cannot downplay that one aspect, right? But I'm trying to bring something for us as Christians, like something that we must put at the forefront is that we often forget the Holy Spirit and the Holy Spirit. Is the fact that even if you're going to seek professional support, the Holy Spirit is called a counselor for a reason. He's called a guide, right, for a reason. And that is even in our most difficult time, right? He's also there with us. We can communicate with him and he can help us through that. You see, the aspect of prayer, I think maybe when we make prayer transactional, in the sense that you come to God and everything you are saying, God, I need this, I need that, or need that, all about your needs, then you might not be able to utilize this aspect of the Holy Spirit. But when you come into your prayer place and you have the understanding, you can hold a conversation with God, you most likely be able to come out of this, because sometimes you take your fears, your your challenges, you place it at his feet, and then you discuss these things with him. I tell you that helps a whole lot, because during those times I told you I was trying times, whenever I go to pray, most of it's like discussion, because I remember then I would stand and I usually come out, like I go outside, open hair, to pray. And most of the times it's just like I'm discussing with him. I say, God, like, you see what I'm going through, right? And so it's more like a discussion and a conversation, pouring my heart to him. And sometimes he speaks back to me. Yeah. Most of the time he speaks back to me. And those are the times where you begin to, like I said, what having that thing to hold on to within, once you begin to hear from him and get feedback from him,
Mhm.
he's going to encourage you. So when I leave the place of prayer,
Okay.
I don't feel down again. I might come down, I don't leave there down, right?
So you're saying that for the first one, what should go first? Is it the prayer or to see the professional aspects? So
Yeah.
which one? Which one should go first, and how do you measure the two of them together?
And so I don't think it's a case of anyone should go first,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So I'm in a point that we are in order to prop up seeking professional help, we are downplaying prayer in this day and age, right? I'm saying that both can go hand in hand, right? While you're advising the person, just like saying, okay, you are praying, somebody is sick, and you prayed for the person, I think the person should not take drug. No, you can take your drug,
Yeah,
and
and still
pray for
pray,
you, right?
and
So
still
that's
pray.
like, so you can also see, see the professional help,
Help.
and talk it, and then you also pray,
Pray
right? Because
alongside.
you cannot, it's not one or the other, or one first and then the other later.
First.
Both are, in
Can
tandem,
go,
you are
okay.
doing both at the same time, right?
Thank you very
And
much.
sometimes it depends on the gravity. Some people might, some people it's trauma. It's not just the fact that they're having, mental. Yeah, sometimes it's deeply rooted in their past, right? That is haunting them now. So sometimes they really need that professional. And also, also their faith is also there to help them up too.
Well, this very one, I don't want us to make it look as if it's just within the church circle alone.
Yeah.
But I want you to help us do something to balance this very question, to talk to the church and talk to everybody in general.
Okay.
You understand? So now, he said, what do you wish pastors, church leaders, faith communities understood better about mental health? What should they understand better? Now, not just the church alone, not just the pastor or the church leader, everybody in society. What should we understand better about the mental health?
The issue of mental health and what people, community leaders and even religious leaders should understand about mental health is the fact that most persons do not come up to share their challenges and their struggles because of stigmatization. People, it's not cultural to us here in Africa. People talking about it's only of this sense that begin to buy into these things because a lot of people they bottle things up and they end up committing suicide and all those things, right? So, but in the Western region, you see that those things are normal. Like you can just go see your therapist. In fact, seeing therapy is actually going for therapy is actually normal. Yeah. So, but here it's actually very strange, right? Like you tell somebody you're going for therapy, like if you look at it like therapy, what? Like, what's wrong with you? Go and sleep, Jerry, or do something. It's obvious that it's doing it, so they just can play it, right? And so that makes for people not want to come up and then share their struggles and their challenges. And sometimes people just look at it and say, okay, I'm having this particular challenge. People don't even feel safe to open up, especially with those people around them. So I think that if the community can do campaigns, right? They can create awareness, do awareness campaign where you can share, do some go around, sensitizing people about these things, right? About mental health. They can come up, they can share their struggles, create communities where people can feel safe to talk about these things. That would really go a long way to help get rid of that because people need to be able to share and then feel safe by sharing.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you very much. What would you say to someone listening right now who is silently struggling badly with balancing mental health and faith?
Okay. So yes, another thing that to add, right, is that some religious leaders or some pastors they intend to like over spiritualize it. Remember I was saying the other time I said you have to like it's something you do and you don't like do one over the other. But some definitely you need to see a professional. Like you just have to talk to a professional about
When
it.
somebody is having headache, you ask him to pray.
Yeah, you understand. So like there's some cases you just have to involve. While you are praying, you must involve a professional because trauma is actually very, very it's a very, very serious case. So so I think that in itself, adds to the struggle when people go and pray,
Wow.
and then they don't, things are not handled as they should be handled, and then to get rid of that. So what I would say to anyone going through that present struggle is that the first thing is to have an outlet,
Have an outlet.
right? Because if you cannot, it's just like you are feeling air into a balloon,
Okay.
right? If you keep feeling air to get to a point, right, it would blow up, right?
Yeah.
And that's when people get to the point where they want to commit suicide.
Mm.
So when there's outlet to deflate, they take away the pressure, right? So that's why the person has to go and then have somebody, right, that he can, pour their minds, right, pour out their mind, and somebody, especially somebody that is, also spiritual, because sometimes too, the person will need to pray with you. The person will need to also give you godly counsel, right? If it's due to work challenge or maybe relationship issues, somebody might need to give you godly counsel alongside, with prayers. So, and also too, is that there are some cases, right, that you just can't pray your will out alone, right? The reason I say that is because of the fact that there are some things, there are some um, things that you need to come to understand about the challenge. Take for example, somebody that underwent the rape or maybe childhood molestation and all of those things, right? And that's where their trauma is coming from. That's where their mental health challenge is coming from. It's actually a very deep one. So you need some to talk to professionals to help you walk back, right? To walk back these processes, and then why we are also spiritually guiding that person on a spiritual journey too. So because some people their faith is not as strong, or their journey with God, right, is not as strong as everybody. Everybody is not in the same place, right? So we need to create that balance, and it needs to be instituted in the church, right? So if you cannot find that in the church, probably you can seek it out there. I know that there are some organizations that would gladly offer their services for that, right? And that's why social media is not just there alone for us to do TikTok and just laugh and all of that, because when after you're done laughing, you come back to the reality.
Yes.
You can search for these organizations online and then reach out to them, and then they will offer you something. Some of them might offer you free services as the cases, and you'll be able to talk. And there's some communities, right? You can also put yourself into, and then begin to help you. But and I would say that with a little pinch of salt, in the sense that because somebody that is on in that particular state is actually very vulnerable. So it's very vulnerable. So you must be mindful of the kind of information and the people you open yourself up to. Because at that point in time, people can begin to feed you with all manner. That's why going through the church, I just wish that churches really institute this right now into, because a lot of people are going through so many struggles and they cannot really feel safe to open up. And if that is done in the church, it will help and go a long way.
Wow. Thank you very, very much, Mr. Lewis. It's been a very wonderful session with you right here.
Thank you very much.
We thank you. We invited you, and you're here with us to share this very wonderful idea.
Yeah.
I believe somebody is out there listening, and this will help a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that is why we have Faith and Life, is to help people how to balance the faith life and the normal life together.
Yeah,
Thank you very
important,
much for
very
having you this very moment.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
I've learned a lot, and I believe you've also learned a lot. This is Faith and Life on 7 Diamond Radio, and I've been here with Mr. Louis Idindu, an entrepreneur, a tech. It's just wonderful, and I just feel like we should keep going and going and going and going and going, but our producers and our directors are signaling that hey, it's okay. But thank you very much for coming once again. Until next week on our next episode, please don't forget, follow 7 Diamond on our YouTube handle at 7 Diamond Radio TV Studio, on TikTok at 7 Diamond Radio, and on Facebook at 7 Diamond Radio. I remain your host, Christian Johnson. See you on our next episode. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening. Stay focused, stay thoughtful, and keep moving forward with us here on 7 Diamond Radio.